So I wanted to start this video off with a proposition. If this video gets 150 to 200 likes, we will continue with more of this What Really Happens in Kingdom Hearts 3 series. This series is to explain rather than play the Kingdom Hearts series to discover the deeper layers of the series, not theories, but linking together the threads within the game to paint the bigger pictures. Not to be that guy, but there seems to be a lot of disconnect within the community on what actually transpires in Kingdom Hearts as a whole and how we've reached the precipice of the next saga. I say that while keeping in mind the fact that this is still my perception and things can change while Kingdom Hearts 4 is in development. In spots, we will have to use a little bit of conjecture, but to remain accurate, I'll loop this video in on itself to give better explanations of the events that transpire that we have to use conjecture or formulate theories to come up with the most logical answer that will lead to certain things that happen. However, to take this mantle and do this for the community, I do ask that you support the content with likes and leave your thoughts, hell, even share what you think the next topic should be for this series. And with that, let's get started with what even happens in Kingdom Hearts 3, the Gambit. So at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3, you are not treated to the traditional opening of the game, and for the first time ever in the series, we are given a Cliff Notes version of everything that's happened thus far. Waiting at the title screen will not bless you with the opening of the game. This makes it clear and deliberate that the Gambit is meant to connect to the opening itself, but I want to do this in a way that serves our purpose here today, getting to the bottom of the Gambit and its many layers. Thus, to do that, we need to start with Xehanort and Ericus's portion of the epilogue.
Oh, right. What's this? I heard about this new game. Seven black pieces, and? Just watch.
After winning the chess game against Xehanort, some time passes and Xehanort and Ericus take a break to appreciate the sight of the sun setting in Scala Ekylum. Xehanort sneaks a peek at Sora's chess piece as it resides on the chessboard. In this scene, Sora's chess piece is completely illuminated. This contrasts how we'll see it later on in 2022 with the release of the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, where Sora's chess piece is half darkness and half light. Keep that in the back of your head. Ericus then looks onto the chessboard and clears it to make way for a new game. This new game features 7 dark pieces that feature the emblems of the foretellers, and the epilogue comes to a close with the cliffhanger of Ericus placing down his only light piece thus far in the scene saying, "Just watch." This all comes after perspective and intuitive players of Kingdom Hearts witness the return of the foretellers at the behest of Luxu, who confirms it was he himself that summoned them back. This aligns with Luxu reports where he states that Xehanort's opening of Kingdom Hearts will bring about the return of the Master and the foretellers, setting them up to us as the next villains in the series. However, there is 2 revelations coming about here in these 2 scenes. But let's start back at the top.
Have you heard of the ancient Keyblade War? Huh? Of course I have. Long ago, Keyblade wielders waged a war over the ownership of light. Yeah, the Master's favorite story. I wonder what they planned on doing with Kingdom Hearts after... making it appear?
Who knows? I don't get why anyone would initiate a war.
So, you know the Lost Masters?
Who?
They're the ones who started the Keyblade War.
Never heard of them. Where'd you hear about that?
Or, they're the ones for whom the war started.
I'm not following you.
You can drop the facade.
Facade?
On that land shall darkness prevail and light expire. A prospective Keyblade Master should know this.
If you say so.
The gazing eye sees the fate of the world. The future. It's already been written.
Really? I'm not so sure about that. Besides, who's to say I can't change it? And maybe light will prevail.
Pretty confident. But things aren't in your favor.
Perhaps, but unlike darkness, there is more to light than meets the eye. You might be surprised.
Oh, I hope so.
So at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3, we open to a brand new world, not the perceived Cable Town, but the aptly named Scala at Kylum, the quote-unquote Stairway to Heaven. Within the four walls at the top of the tower, young Xehanort and Ericus are having a chess game. When Xehanort asks, "So you know the Lost Masters" in this scene, with Ericus responding he's never heard of them, but identify the scene here. The camera does not pan on Ericus's face. When Xehanort asks this question, both of their faces are hidden, but we are shown the lower portion of Ericus's face as we see him sort of quiver with his words. The game essentially robs us of the fact and the ability to see for ourselves that Ericus is most likely lying. A detail to glean this truth is that Ericus is proclaimed to be a blue blood, a Keyblade wielder of royalty by Master Xehanort in his reports within Kingdom Hearts 3. After a few more attempts to prod Ericus or goad Ericus into divulging his knowledge on these Lost Masters to no avail, after this portion of the scene, Xehanort and Ericus kind of assume the roles of darkness and light. I say assume these roles because people think this is actually Xehanort kind of telling Ericus that he will be evil, when in actuality Xehanort and Ericus are both just being children. They're getting absorbed into the game and they're starting to, of course, flesh that out in real ways, like assuming light and darkness. In the next scene where we pick up after Xehanort and Ericus get absorbed into their chess match, we pick up with Xehanort taking a victory over Ericus where he recalls his Sora piece to the back. Ericus reveals that lights have been hiding in tow waiting for their chance to assist in combating the dark pieces, and we see this play out in the Keyblade War at the end of the game as well. They come in the form of the lights of the past, as Aqua and Ventus calls them. They come out from not the shadows, but from the realm of sleep, a realm hidden from plain sight. So weirdly enough, I don't think that Ericus is actually cheating here. Something about this version of chess must feature a special clause in it that if Sora's piece is the only one on the board at its moment of capture, the player of light can actually recall it back, and thus these other pieces are summoned. Notice how they come directly to the board. Ericus doesn't have to place them there. This may be akin to how Sora temporarily dies, saves his friends, returns, and somehow Ephemera is capable of now bringing about the lights of the past. This is something I'll talk more on in our conjecture portion of the video.
Checkmate. And so darkness prevails, and light expires. You need a new strategy.
My move, isn't it?
Huh?
It's not over.
Come on. That's not fair. I know I had you.
Yes, you nearly did. But a game's no fun if you know where it's going. There's more to light than meets the eye. I told you. Some light comes from the past.
At the end of this chess game, Xehanort even concedes defeat, meaning he doesn't feel cheated that Ericus was capable of practically resetting the game, just as the Seekers are not too concerned with Sora giving his friends another chance in the Keyblade graveyard. With the erasure of the 7 Guardians of Light, Xehanort should have been able to summon the X-Blade, however he doesn't. Or maybe he doesn't do so in the timeline after the Singularity tears apart space and time to bring about a new outcome. But back to the past. After joking about never losing, Xehanort has this deep, intimate moment with Ericus. He speaks about how he won't go as far as Ericus, and when the time comes for a successor to be chosen, they'll put that responsibility on Ericus's back. They'll pick Ericus to take up the Master Defender and become the protector of the world and the teacher to the next generation of Keyblade wielders, leaving himself to be the wanderer with the no-name Keyblade. Taking up the no-name Keyblade to feed it information, in the Gambit itself, the no-name actually seems to still be devoid of its power as it appears within the Kingdom Hearts Missing Link trailer, where we can see that it's kind of grayed out there just as it is here. However, when we see it later on in this exact same game, it's as black and lively as it's ever been in the Kingdom Hearts series. So thus, this could be where these feelings of feeling lesser than come from in this moment. Xehanort may feel like his destiny in the guise of all that Ericus is, from being a Keyblade wielder of royalty, will be a sham of carrying a lifeless Keyblade that everyone since Lucio, and perhaps Brain as well, is waiting on the Keyblade to wake up. So while it is still a functional Keyblade, it does not, cannot, and will not serve its true purpose to any wielder that is not the Dark Seeker. However, Xehanort cuts through these emotions and promises that no matter what, he will always be there for Ericus, that he is willing to play that role to be a small part of something bigger, the role Ericus will play in bringing about the next generation after theirs. Remember, in Xehanort's reports, or Xehanort's letter in Birth by Sleep, he spoke about how he was grateful to still be invited to witness the BBS trio take the exam. This generation of Keyblade wielders will be the next to take the Master Defender and the No Name. And by the end of this scene, Ericus responds to Xehanort's proclamation with one of his own, that he too will always be beside Xehanort in his endeavors to further the precepts of the Keyblade.
I told you that you might be surprised.
Yeah, you got me.
Huh? Really?
What?
It's just, you never admit it when you lose.
That's 'cause I never lose.
Oh, come on.
Good game today.
I try.
Maybe I won't go as far as you.
Huh?
When the world needs a defender, they'll pick you, Ericus.
Huh? You think?
But that doesn't mean that I can't be there for you.
Yeah, and I'll be there for you.
So at the beginning of this video, we started with the epilogue of Kingdom Hearts 3. However, at the beginning of the game, we open with the Gambit, and I'm here to tell you this all goes together to be stitched to paint a clear picture of how Ericus is the one that created the Dark Seeker. Let's do a Cliff Notes version of all the things we've gone over together thus far, and how the revelation at the end breathes life to the ending of Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, where Ericus and Xehanort have their initial battle, and the scene we saw in BBS as well, where Xehanort scars Ericus, which is symbolic of Xehanort going back to his word, as he believes Ericus to be doing the same, and how this brings about the foretellers with a little push from the Master of Masters in Xehanort's past. One day, in Scala Akylum, Xehanort and Ericus meet at the usual spot atop the highest tower in Scala Akylum to play chess. As they get on the way, Xehanort asks, has Ericus heard of the ancient Keyblade War, with Ericus confirming that it's their master's favorite story. But then when asked about the Lost Masters, which is in quotations, meaning Xehanort has heard of these people or know of these people, he does not know of these people. Ericus does not know of these people technically. Ericus states he's never heard of them. Xehanort responds he can drop the facade. Continuing to play dumb, Xehanort tries to prod Ericus to divulge what it is clearly a secret of the royal family by trying to seek out any insecurities Ericus may have. When this doesn't work, they resume to playing the game like normal and get into character embodying light and darkness. After defeating Xehanort in this chess game, Xehanort has a moment of sincerity where he espouses that even if he isn't destined to lead the future of the Keyblade precepts, which is the bestowing of his will onto others, like Master Odin onto Xehanort and Ericus, Xehanort says he'll always be there for Ericus regardless to help him build the future. After laughing and looking at the sunset in Scala Akylum, remember this is a motif in Kingdom Hearts already, where characters have these genuine moments at sunsets for better or worse, Ericus gets excited and sets up the chessboard with new pieces that Xehanort has never seen before. These pieces feature the foretellers, and Ericus ends the epilogue with just watch. But this is all that we are actually shown. However, Kingdom Hearts 4 has already promised to continue where Kingdom Hearts 3's epilogue left off. This game of chess, Ericus is going to tell Xehanort information he should not know. Information about a time only known to the 5 Union leaders. Information only known by perhaps royals. Information only known by Ericus in Xehanort's vicinity. Information about the Keyblade War. Information that will set up the Master of Masters to goad him into traversing the darkness in the corridors unprotected. Information the Master will use to scare him, and information for him to seek the end of the friendship with Ericus and prepare a proper generation of Keyblade wielders for what's coming. A darkness in the sky that beckons a boy to come to it one late night, and he formulates the next 70 years to find a hope for the world of his predecessor, Ephemera. And thus, before we can get into the unclear elements, essentially what I'm saying here is that the way everything seems to be playing out around the Gambit, or this one day that seems to be especially special, with the only thing that we can actually consider to most likely be different from any other time Xehanort and Ericus have met to play chess, which we know from Kingdom Hearts Dark Road that they play chess regularly. The only reason why we can assume that this one is special is that Xehanort brings up to Ericus the Lost Masters. In this scene, Ericus initially is playing dumb. However, it's the same chess game that plays out across all of Kingdom Hearts 3, where we will see this chess game continue to be played out and built up on until the epilogue, where before we have the conclusion of that first chess game, where Ericus will start a new chess game that Xehanort has no clue about, we will be shown the return of the foretellers, which you will only have knowledge of this prior if you thoroughly search the worlds to find the secret reports for Kingdom Hearts 3, where you can find in Lushu's reports that the foretellers are destined to return the same day that Xehanort will open Kingdom Hearts. But during the initial scene where we see this chess game play out, we know that Xehanort asks about specifically the Lost Masters. Now, for a time, there was some confusion within the Kingdom Hearts community where it was believed that the Lost Masters and the Ancient Masters were one and the same, that the Lost Masters were the Union leaders because of how they connect and clearly outline the past of the current world, when in fact the Lost Masters and the Ancient Masters are two separate groups. It's kind of weird how they named them, because the Lost Masters would technically fit the Union Chi Union leaders better, and then the Ancient Masters would fit the foretellers better because they were the actual recognized masters of 1,000 years ago. However, the Lost Masters would be the characters, like how some Keyblade wielders survived. They would be the characters of the time in the Master's data version of the world, where they specifically kind of disappear and they go to different points in time, where the characters, as we can see, are not that much older than what they were during the events of 1,000 years ago. So it's kind of weird how they named them that way, but of course the Ancient Masters has actually always been the Union Chi cast, whereas the Lost Masters has always represented the foretellers. And with that confusion, of course, when we initially got the trailer in 2015, which we didn't know, of course, the ending of Union Chi or anything like that, or Unchained Key, we didn't know the ending of those games yet by a long while with the 2015 trailer. However, it was still perceived that the Lost Masters were another group and the Ancient Masters were the foretellers. When what's actually being asked of Ericus here by young Xehanort is, does he know of these characters that he used to have dreams of? And in these dreams, as we're shown at the beginning of Dark Road, or the first time we see baby Xehanort, or but I'll call him baby Xehanort. The first time we see baby Xehanort is that he's having a dream of the day player character died while participating in the Keyblade War. And since he's having this dream about the day player character died, it can only be assumed that he also saw what the foretellers did to player character. And remember, Xehanort tells player character before he falls asleep that he believes this to be a life that he had prior to the one now. And thus, when player character actually proclaims that that's actually my life and that you can feel it through my heart and see through my heart into memories that player character doesn't even have anymore, he can see into his heart and pull forth those memories to live them out in his own dreams. So if he's looking through the eyes of player character of the day that he fights all of the foretellers and gets brutally mauled by all 5 foretellers, then when he asks Ericus about whether or not he know who these people are, he's asking him as he knows that he's a member of the royal family. Well, who's the only characters that still have memories of the Keyblade War in Kingdom Hearts Union Keys ending before we got Dark Road? The Union leaders themselves. Remember, the other player characters, because that's what's really going on here, the other player characters of the unions are made ignorant to what happens outside of the Data Daybreak Town. They believe that life is just continuing on in perpetuity as if nothing had ever happened. However, the union leaders only and specifically know that outside of the data version of the world, a Keyblade war has waged, and the end of the world is going to follow this Keyblade war. However, what they did not know was that they were supposed to go to their deaths alongside everyone within the Keyblade war. However, their deaths would be special in it that the Union leaders would carry darknesses within them that would also go with them with the shutting off of the computer that hosted the data version of Daybreak Town. And that's how you get like Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, and Xehanort or Terra Xehanort while he's under the guise of Ansem in Radiant Garden. That's how you get him testing on Scold and all of that stuff, which I think that that's stuff that most people generally understand. But that's how you get those moments in the series where we're told that apparently Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, took Ansem's name and experimented on a bunch of children looking for these answers until the day he came across Subject X, which is most likely Scold, where she actually does seem to have some layer of memories towards the Keyblade War, which is information that Xehanort seeks. So one should be able to imagine that the day that Xehanort meets the Master of Masters, or when he returns to the Master of Masters after going to traverse the world and returning to speak with him about what it is that he thinks he can do about the state of the world, then you should consider that when he tells Xehanort that specifically, and in quotations again, I'm a lost master, and we see Xehanort jump up in awe and in fear of what's stated about, as he literally repeats, a lost master, that this moment right here with the Master of Masters, which also falls in line with what he will learn from Ericus that we are not shown in Kingdom Hearts 3, that these things will lead into the future that we have with Xehanort trying to open Kingdom Hearts. However, Xehanort is ignorant of the fact that with the opening of Kingdom Hearts and the summoning of the X-Blade, for some reason, the foretellers are connected to these events. And through these events, we get the epilogue, which is why the ending of the Gambit, the day that Ericus and Xehanort have a special chess game in it, that what's special about it is that Xehanort will be questioning Ericus about the Keyblade War, and it seems that by the end of the epilogue, Ericus is going to tell him the truth about what the royal family knows about the Lost Masters and how they potentially still know and still have the information from their predecessor Ephemera about the Keyblade War and what transpired. So imagine for Xehanort, this has to feel like as though everything that he saw player character went through is pretty much destined to happen again. So that's it for this video as things stand right now. So here's what's still unclear about the day Xehanort and Ericus played that chess game. When Xehanort asks about the Lost Masters, why is it that he asks Ericus specifically? This could be due to something we see in the missing linked beta. We know that Xehanort is part of the royal family. However, he was taken from this royal family to be hidden on the Destiny Islands. So again, why Ericus specifically? I think this is not just due to their friendship, which becomes a brotherhood on this day, but because of characters that look like Xehanort and his branch of the royals, where they can steal the memories of others. It seems for some reason non-royals cannot be left with the knowledge or even get close to the knowledge of the royals. This is another layer for my theory viewers that when I saw it made me once again assume Master Ava is in Scala Asylum, once a seat of power for all Keyblade wielders, so past tense. And for some reason the Nor version of Scala Asylum has this medieval aesthetic to it, with a layer of perceived discrimination and classism amongst its peoples. Ephemera was not this kind of character, and thus I find it hard to believe he imposed such rules upon Scala Asylum. So where do they come from? The opening is the night of Ericus telling Xehanort the truth about the Lost Masters. This stokes the flame in his heart to guide the world towards its end, as he already has these beliefs when we see his second meeting with the Master of Masters, who had asked him to use his time touring the world before the Mark of Mastery exam to consider the darkness plaguing it and eating away at the stability of the worlds. This leads to the penultimate moment that most likely leads to their initial battle within the halls of Skylight Asylum, where Ericus will espouse in a report that this turn of events has led him down a spiral of depression, where he's saddened by the fact that Xehanort believes that he has turned his back on him, that he was and always will be his brother. And in BBS, Ericus even talks about Xehanort always having this hyperfixation with the Keyblade War in Kingdom Hearts. That scene in Birth by Sleep where Xehanort scars Ericus isn't because Ericus dared to raise his Keyblade to him. Xehanort already understands that Ericus sees light and darkness differently from himself. That Ericus believes in the light is sacred and must be protected at any cost, even if it means hurting those he loves. It is because he believed Ericus was going back on his words all of that time ago that we see in the Gambit. Xehanort's mission is to explore and observe the world to help Ericus maintain the balance, which is what he tells Aqua about the Land of Departure, how their world has a huge stake in the balances of light and darkness. So when Xehanort returns to him with the desire to open Kingdom Hearts and let it judge the world, where they could start a new world and purge the darkness out with the power of Kingdom Hearts, Ericus disagrees with this sentiment, despite the fact that this is the role the wielder of the no-name Keyblade undertakes the day that they accept it. Ericus perceives Xehanort to have gone mad and he wants to desecrate the sanctity of the original light, Kingdom Hearts, as this purge he speaks of will blanket the world in darkness first. Ericus knew Xehanort had hopes of seeing a new world pure and bright. So why does he recoil at the idea of helping him make it so? He's seen the world for 60 long years, and the darkness in others' hearts rule and shape the conditions of each world that he's been to. So when he comes to Ericus with the idea that they should open Kingdom Hearts together and purge the world so that way they can recreate and restructure the world around light properly this time, Ericus believes this to be the machinations of a madman. And I've told you guys this before, that when we see that scene in Birth by Sleep that everyone pretends like, oh my god, that was Xehanort's motivations and they changed it in Kingdom Hearts 3, you always have to remember when you think about scene that this is coming from the perspective of Ericus himself, where he's going to retell the story in ways that fits the sentiment of his thoughts around what happened at that time. Remember, the initial battle between Xehanort and Ericus in Dark Road is what brings about the secret Ericus reports, where he states that he has always seen Xehanort as a brother and he always will. However, in Birth by Sleep, there's another letter about the day that they fought as adults, where Xehanort tells Ericus that he was sorry for hurting him for their difference in opinion. And that right there outlines clear as day that what they are fighting over, and what Ericus tells Ventus about the day that Xehanort struck him with the power of darkness and left him there. He's actually telling him his version of the events. And Ericus will state to Ventus as well, or at least imply to Ventus as well, that Xehanort has always had a hyperfixation with the balances of light and darkness and Kingdom Hearts and the Keyblade War. And what we're seeing in the Gambit is the original moments of when Xehanort and Ericus starts to kind of, I guess you could say, the disconnect that leads to them breaking their friendship, and how Xehanort truly becomes the Dark Seeker, and why Ericus creates the Dark Seeker in these moments is because, I'll lay it out for you perfectly. Xehanort asks us about the Lost Masters. Ericus pretends like he doesn't know what he's talking about. After promising to always be there for each other, which turns their friendship into a brotherhood, Ericus tells, or is going to tell, Xehanort the truth about the fact that the royal family does know of the Lost Masters and who they are. This may lead into Xehanort explaining to Ericus, and this all fits into the unclear element. This may lead into Xehanort explaining to Ericus about his dreams of how the Lost Masters were actually evil. Time goes on. Of course, everything in Dark Road happens, and Xehanort and Ericus are the only two students of Master Odin left. Xehanort is given the no-name Keyblade, and then he goes on the Mark of Mastery exam, he goes on the pretest for the Mark of Mastery exam, where he's meant to traverse the worlds to have a first try at taking up the role he's supposed to have with the no-name Keyblade, alongside the wielder of the Master Defender, who's supposed to protect the balance of the world, which is at the land of departure, and to teach new Keyblade wielders. And then Xehanort is supposed to traverse the world to handle any outer lining threats before they can get to the land of departure, kind of. That's kind of what he's supposed to be doing. And this is why they give that Keyblade wielder the no-name Keyblade, because I'm pretty sure, and this is still in the unclear elements section, I'm pretty sure that in some way, form, or fashion, they're capable of getting information from the no-name Keyblade back at Scala at Kylum, or in some way that information is fed back into itself. And I think this is how Xehanort is capable of planning everything the way he does. I promise you, I know it's a theory, but I promise you, in some way, form, or fashion, they're going to have the ability to see the future through the no-name Keyblade at Scala at Kylum. It's going to happen. And Xehanort is able to do this too. So maybe the wielder that it's bestowed to has this power innately, but then at Scala at Kylum, they have this power second-handedly, to where like somehow this information kind of feeds back into their quarters as well. And then finally, of course, Xehanort, being in the role of traversing the world, it witnesses so much darkness and how it corrupts and corrodes the world, that he goes to Ericus and asks him to help him get to Kingdom Hearts and purge the world, so that way they can reset the slate and set the slate clean. Ericus perceives this to be madness. So that's what happens. That's the pretty much how Ericus creates the Dark Seeker. And this all starts with the Gambit, which again is going to pop up within Kingdom Hearts 4 as well, as it already makes its first appearance, its first showing in the very first trailer of Kingdom Hearts 4. So thank you guys for tuning into this video. Like I said, if this video gets 150 to 200 likes, I'll return with another video topic. I don't know what the topic is going to, well, I won't tell you what the topic is going to be next time. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace the heck out.